I'm gonna try. Let's just try to open the stream like everything's fine. I'm fine. I'm doing so good. I was on my walk this morning with the Greyhounds, listening to the podcast, talking about the episode, and they played. I don't know where they got the right to do this, but they played a clip of Bill's song, and I started crying out in public on my walk. Just wasn't cool. So here's what I felt like. Since they were able to do that to me, I'm gonna just open the stream with this song. So I'm just paying it forward. In broad daylight. I was crying in broad daylight. I like many people, basically everyone, I don't think was ready for yesterday. We're gonna basically just be spending the first bit of stream commiserating about episode 3 of The Last of Us. I think we all kind of were at a place of like comfort and excitement with the show, where we're like, you know, eager to see where they're going next. We're excited to meet Bill, but nothing was right, you know, preparing any of us for what happened. So I have my notes and I'd like to talk about them, and I'd like to try my best not to cry, but I watched it twice last night, and I just kind of sat around thinking about it, because it was one of those moments where I was feeling so intensely and I wasn't expecting it. I was hit by this like cascade of like pain and emotion, and I wasn't ready for it. And I think like my natural instinct, our natural instinct maybe, is to feel that feeling and really try to like resist it, and not to pay attention, to block it out, to move forward, to distract ourselves. And I found myself like fighting that urge and just sitting with it. And it was like I just needed to feel all of it because it was so intense. You know, it was like so real and so intense and so beautiful. And I've never in my whole life witnessed a love story like that. And I just couldn't let go of it. I had to just like sit with it and just feel that pain and the beauty and the heartache, and just sit with it and just let it exist. And I woke up and I felt the same way. And I feel so fucking grateful that I got to experience that. So I want to talk about the episode. There's a lot of stuff that I want to go over. This is probably the most comprehensive I've been with an episode as far as like note taking and observations and stuff, because I watched it 3 times and I basically just thought about it ever since it aired last night. So let's start. Okay, so episode 3 was titled Long Long Time, which was both the title of this episode and it was the title of the Linda Ronstadt song that was playing throughout the episode. I'm just gonna go over my notes that were kind of taken chronologically throughout the episode, and then I'll dive into the images that I picked out to talk about. All right, this was cool. I actually kind of jumped in a little late because there was like a scene before they start raiding that little convenience store, where I liked that scene because it felt like an actual true interaction between Ellie and Joel with no other third party, no distraction. They sort of had their first like, okay, it's just you and me, let's do this thing. And that was like a real dialogue, I felt like. So that was cool. Cool intro. It started with them by the river, and then they keep walking and talking. Ellie finding feminine products, and they actually included that in the show. I don't remember any apocalyptic based universe, TV, movie, even video game where that has been included. And it feels like such a, why is no one, I just think that they didn't have to do that, and it was cool that they included that. She's like, fuck yeah. So that was cool. I hadn't seen that before. This is continuing to make me laugh. Ellie's quest for a gun. I find it really funny. Up until this moment where she's in the basement of the convenience store and she sees that one infected, which, by the way, the makeup, holy shit. Up until that point, Ellie as a character feels very much like a passenger in the story. And as a lot of people who know the game can foresee, because we have that knowledge, she's not a passenger, she's the main character. But for now, she's just been a passenger. She's just been handed off, being taken places, being told what to do, being scolded. And then all of a sudden she just sees this fucking infected and she just absolutely murks him. And it felt like there was this like really definitive like decision that she made to be like, I'm gonna fucking kill this thing. I can kill too. I'm like, I can make my own decision. I can protect myself. She just fucking killed him. She didn't have to. She could have just left him there. He wasn't gonna do anything. He was crushed by like rubble. But she was like, no, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy. I'm gonna stab him in his head. She was kind of sick for that, and I liked it. So yeah, that was, and like, okay, so I noticed right before this kill scene, she talks about making decisions with Joel, about how everything is just a consequence of decisions, no matter how you look at it. And then she goes and makes that decision. I thought that was interesting. I liked it. She and Joel are talking about how the pandemic started, how the outbreak started. And he says pancake mix, which I love that they included. There was that like deliberate line, pancake mix, confirming what we had all picked up on about how he skipped on the pancakes with Sarah and Tommy. All right, now we get to Bill. Nick Offerman as Bill. He plays this character so well. If it had just been Bill, he still would have been the perfect Bill. This guy and his wine. He's got boxes and boxes of wine. He be right in the wine shop. My dude loves his wine. He uses wine to drink. He uses wine to cope with his loneliness. He uses wine to decorate his whole fucking house. Did you notice there's literally wine on every surface? It's like he doesn't know how to put anything anywhere except for wine. And he was fucking looted, dude. My guy was looting. The Last of Us gave us looting, finally. Scooting and looting. A dude loaded up his boat with loot. Holy shit, he had loot. I also loved, so this was the first major change as far as like storyline and lore goes from the game to the show. Very different storylines. But it worked so well, I think, because it told a story that a lot of us who played the game were primed to be interested in, because we didn't get that story. What we got in the game was this really, really bitter, not even bittersweet. It was this really, really bitter memory and note describing Bill and Frank. You meet Bill in the game. He's very survivalist, protective, suspect of everyone. We know that. But when we learn about Frank and we see how that all played out, we're just gutted in the game. It was like sad and just sad. It was just sad. There was no, it wasn't like beautiful and sad. It was just sad. It was like you read about how they were together, they were once happy, and then Frank just got fed up and he left. He was like, I don't want to do this anymore, you know? Unstoppable force meets immovable object, right? Frank was like, I need to get out. I need to not live this life. And Bill was just so stubborn. And so Frank left, gets infected, right? And then he kills himself. And then you learn about it all and you see it all. But you never meet Frank. All you have of Frank in the game is this just like sad memory that isn't even yours. The show decides to take this whole new approach with Bill and Frank, and I thought it was just so great. I think I was really ready going into this episode, like I have been for all the episodes, to sit there and like have the game of The Last of Us fan inside of me be satisfied with like how it's brought to life. And that's not what happened at all. I was sitting there in that mode, looking like in my observational stance, looking around, ready to have kind of predictions about what's happening, and then it just like went a completely different direction. And I was taken along on this ride, this love story that was just so beautiful. And I think the unpredictability of it was added to like how powerful it felt. Anyway, part of that was this compound. They built this compound for Bill and they brought it to life without. I love how Bill and Ellie and Joel never interacted in present day, but yet you feel like they did interact because of when they arrive there, they see the compound as it was and they get to like see all of his stuff and they get to take the equipment that he left for them and all that. He had a metal detector. He had hella guns on the wall. some of which were from the game. He had a freaking ammunition reloader. He had a workbench. We got our first workbench. So really cool. They set the scene really well. Their interaction, Bill and Frank's interaction, adorable. I loved the first interaction. I have loved Murray Bartlett for many years now. His acting has just always made me feel something really, really intense. And he's just really good. The first thing I saw him in that I can remember was Looking. And I remember Jenna and I used to talk about that show a lot because we were such fans of it, and then it got canceled. But he was on Looking and he blew us away on that show. If you've never seen that show, look it up and watch it. It's very fucking good. And then everyone mostly recently knows him from White Lotus, which he taps into, I guess, more of like a comedic side. But he's a great actor, and they cast him perfectly as Frank. I love how nervous Bill was. You have this guy who's like this, like, he's just this character of like, I have my walls lined with guns and wine, and I have a bunker, like, don't even look at me or I'll shoot you to protect myself. And as soon as he meets Frank, he's just nervous. He's like so nervous. So I was very much enjoying like the pacing of their interaction and how it progressed, and then the piano. And then when he says there's no girl, and then he goes, I know, and he puts his hand on his shoulder. Yeah, my dude Frank had Riz for sure. Oh my God. Frank works hard to make this house a home. That's the note. I love the line where they're fighting. I love the quick jump to them 10 years later, and they're just fucking fighting. I will run through one of your tripwires. Oh man, that made me laugh. Then he says, paying attention to things, it's how we show love, which I loved that callback towards the end. So I loved the little flashback lunch with Joel and Tess and Bill and Frank. And then after that, you notice that, so like here, this should be first actually right here. So the shot of the barricaded cars on the fence, you assume that, and I think this is a little bit of a misdirection, but you assume that he never actually traded with Joel because he decided to just stack cars along the fence instead of get that aluminum spool of wire that Joel was advertising. So this leads you to think, oh, he never actually traded with Joel. But then you learn that he listened to Joel because Joel was warning him about the raiders who come at night, who come silently, who come armed. And this dude beefed up his system. He had these sensors, he had flamethrowers. Those weren't there before that I could see. Maybe they were there. I don't think they were though. That was a crazy scene. What did I write here? Dots were still connected as far as the game lore goes with Bill and Joel. Joel reads the note and collects the truck and gear. Basically a similar outcome to the game, just reached differently. Also, we're left with a different kind of pain, a more beautiful and better kind that we got to experience, that absolutely beautiful and devastating love story. Instead of in game, when you read the notes between Bill and Frank and are laced with resentment and pure sadness. Somehow giving context to the sadness makes it easier to swallow. Yes. So I was really just feeling grateful that they gave us this story, because if you're gonna give Bill and Frank a backstory, like just doing it exactly how it was in game would have been fan service for only the sake of fan service, and it wouldn't have been good storytelling. It would have just been translating from the game to the TV show. And it would have been like, damn, they could have done better. And they probably thought of that, and they were like, no, we can do better, and we will do better. And we'll cast these brilliant actors and just knock it out of the fucking park and make everyone cry in the whole world. Okay, let's go to some of the images. So we'll start, I think at the top of these. So I arranged them with like the images that stuck out to me, like in a cinematography sense, and like just the way I like the shots were composed. And then towards the end, I sort of draw these comparisons and parallels that I was able to like pick up on my second and third watch. This is I think one of the first shots of Bill. He's sitting at his cams. This is a cool shot. His bunker is so cool. This is him eating his dinner by himself at this tiny little sad table, at this tiny little sad dining room, tiny little sad dimly lit lights, sad wall, sad everything, just lonely man eating lonely dinner. And he's enjoying watching his traps kill infected for his, like, you know, Netflix and chill. So this shot I grabbed because I should have included a shot from when he first spots him to like this shot, because this shot, you see something in his eyes where he has this moment of, wait a minute, that's a human. That's a human. That human is being nice. That human is not infected. The human literally just wants some food. The human is handsome. namely that. But he's like looking at him and there's this like change in his face that it was like the start of Bill's character being human for a second. Because he wasn't human for a lot of this. He was just this like robotic prepper guy. And he has this is the start of it. He gives this look and he's like, wait a minute. This is the most relatable, like the way he's standing. He's so uncomfortable and awkward, but he's like not leaving. He's not kicking him out. He's not yelling. He's like just there, you know? He's like in panic and freaking out internally, but he's not fighting it really. He's just kind of like existing in the panic. And I loved his body language here. I love the screenshot with the caption. It made me laugh. This made me laugh really hard. I love this shot of Bill and Joel. It felt like I was waiting for like a 2-shot of them because the whole time they're interacting, it's like over the shoulders and like dialogue, and then Frank and Tess leave, and then they give you this 2-shot when he holsters his gun, and I was like, yeah, this is it. This is a good shot. This was the shot of the fast forward 10 years, the cars barricaded along the fence. Clearly, Joel was right about the fence. It corroded. And so he has to do this complete mess of like a barrier now with these cars and this shitty little barbed wire situation instead of, this is what I picked up from it. Instead of trading, he just did this. He was stubborn. Deaf forklift certed. Damn. He was probably certed up for sure. Seeing Tess again was cool. Yeah. So that scene is where Bill's like apologizing because he's getting older faster. And he has this like worry about him where he's like, he doesn't want to leave Frank. He doesn't want to die and abandon him. And he's like, I'm sorry for getting older. And Frank goes, older means we're still here. And Bill replies, I was never afraid before you showed up. And this one hit me like right in the gut because it's very relatable to feel like fearless and careless and confident and maybe recklessly confident in the world, especially a world that we live in now, until you meet someone who puts that fear in you of like, you have something to lose now. You have something that you don't know if you could live with losing. And before having them, it was almost like you're ignorant to loss because you don't have the perspective of it in front of you as a reminder every day. So this really hit me. So that's the strawberry scene. This scene, the lighting was fucking insane. It was just like really, really cool lighting in this scene when the raiders show up and the flamethrowers go off and Bill's just out there fucking gunning them down, dude, in the middle of the street, no cover. But yeah, I really love how they lit this. Stop it. This shot I loved this shot because to me, it was like, this shot felt like the meshing, the coming together of this like TV version of The Last of Us with like the scenic video game version that we know, right? So the background, like the backdrop of this shot, this building, the street, the vines growing on the statue, everything defunct, the leaves. This is a scene out of the game, but then they put the TV Bill and Frank, Bill pushing Frank in his wheelchair on their last day when they're going to get married, which by the way, stop it. I'm not even going to talk about that. It felt like it was a crossover. Finally, it was like this, okay, we're telling this new story on TV, but like, look, visually, this is the game. This is the same thing. And again, it was like the set department and the art department just really killed it. Really, really amazing. So then the Bill and Frank chapter comes to a close and Ellie reads the note that was left for Joel, but probably Joel. To anyone who finds this, probably Joel. I loved when Ellie reads the letter and she like reads out loud the laughing. That was really funny. This was a tiny bit of foreshadowing that I kind of feel like was there. At the very start of the episode, you have The transition was really cool, but it zooms in on this like fabric of this like blanket and like shirt. And then it flashes back to who was wearing the blanket and who was wearing the shirt. And it was this mother and child when they were getting boarded up by Fedra. And the mother and child died without ever being infected. They never got infected. They died. And so did Bill and Frank, namely Frank, right? Maybe that was a connection, maybe not. This was me all night. All right, so there's a couple parallels that I wanted to talk about. That I like, visual parallels that I think were fun to pick up on. There was a moment here too when she's reading the letter to Joel, and it zooms in on Joel, and it's just like this like really reflective moment for him, and it becomes so intense where he has to like go outside and like look, you know, just get some air and really just he has a moment where he's thinking about Tess. And he's thinking about Bill. And he's thinking about the bond that he and Bill had. These two guys who were both very stubborn, had very little in common aside from the fact that they were protectors. That's their job. Their purpose is to protect someone. And Joel is seeming to feel this like sad, defeated, like down on himself because he didn't protect Sarah, and now he didn't protect Tess, but he has Ellie here. And it's this moment where he's like, all right, I can just like call it and GG's, or I can like save who I can save. I thought he had Parkinson's. I don't think they made it clear on purpose. I don't think they wanted to make it clear, but it was clearly just like a terrible degenerative disease that, you know, has a real decline. Yeah, he said MS or ALS on the podcast, but they very clearly didn't want to include like what it was. I think it was implied that it was one of those two. But I think what they wanted was like, people go through this all the time. And even during this crazy apocalypse scenario, people would still be going through this. And they would be going through it worse because there's no medical. So so then you have this amazing pullback window shot to end the episode, which, what more fan service do we need than this fucking shot on episode 3? Which again, just like a lot of the fucking shots that have been shot for shot from the game, is flipped. It's flipped. We're on the right side of the window looking left. In the game, we're on the left side of the window looking right. There's so many shots that are just flipped like this. And I'm picking up on this. There was the nap, there was him holding Sarah, like so many shots, very important shots, just flipped. So this was cool. So something I picked up on, which, okay, I might be reaching on some of this. I tried to really put some time into studying the visuals just so I could maybe spot something that would have been harder to spot. So this was the woman who was killed by Fedra, wearing this like bright green with red flowers on it shirt. And their curtains are green with flowers on it. I don't know. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it was intentional. Maybe it's to keep that link between them. There really isn't much of like a similarity as far as like the story goes between them, but they both died, not of infection. They both were in the same area. I don't know. Maybe it was like a little nod or something. The paintings were really cool to look at. So you have this painting towards the end of Frank's life, where you see that he's clearly struggling to paint the way he used to be able to paint, but it still is this like, it almost looks like a Van Gogh. It's like very beautiful, and it's very clearly Bill with his hat on. And then also I picked up on so many carrot drawings. So this was a shot of Bill harvesting his first carrot during that like montage at the beginning of him like chopping down trees and looting stores and growing his own crops. Carrot drawing in the living room, carrot painting on the patio, carrot painting in the bedroom. 3 carrot paintings, drawings. The significance of carrots is that they lived off the land. They sustained each other. They were able to live together with no one else. And this is how they did it. The carrots were their food source. It was like what they, you know, it was also a big point of pride for Bill. He was a guy who like made his whole kind of like compound completely self-sustaining, and that was like that's his identity. So I sat and thought about this for a long time. Can someone help me here? Because this kind of maybe looks like some Joel concept art, but like not really. Who the fuck is this? Like I went through so many different like theories about this, and all I was left with was it kind of looks like Joel a little bit. It has the Joel jacket a little bit. Doesn't really look like his face, but kind of maybe some concept art. Like, isn't it Frank? Is it Frank? Is he painting himself? Because I looked up pictures of Murray Bartlett when he was younger. It didn't look like that. We also kind of were playing around with the theory of like, this was Frank's old love. He was painting his lost love. And then I thought it was kind of weird that he would be painting his ex. Maybe they wanted it to be kind of, looks like a self-portrait. Yeah, I'm looking up photos of Murray Bartlett and he's wearing plaid. He's not wearing this jacket. So it wasn't that. But it's possible that this was just a self-portrait. I don't know. This one kind of stumped me. A young, healthy version of himself for Bill. This was his face when he got served his first dinner by Bill. Made me laugh. Bro, Mitty just sent this. It is from Looking. Looking stands rise, baby. That's crazy that this shot is from Looking. That's what? That's pretty cool. You were right, Chad. It was a young Frank. I wanted to do a little before and after of Bill's dining room. So this is Bill's dining room before Frank enters the home. You have wine, literally just wine. A picture, looks like a picture of family, old. Really dimly lit light on this painting, really dimly lit wall fixtures, dust on surfaces. And then Frank comes in and makes this house a home, adds plants, which by the way, fern right there. Okay, and there's another fern that pops up in the art studio, but plants, life, flowers, bright lights, brighter lights on the painting, candles, flowers over here. The only wine that's being put on display is the one that they're drinking. Huge difference. This is like an empty life, and this is their full life. They lived it. Frank got to like nest, and they got to like, I gotta stop. Another fern. This is from the art studio. Fern. 2 ferns I spotted. One there, one here. Did anyone notice the strawberries painting? Found that. Strawberries. Those have to be strawberries. They even look like the little carton. What's the fern significance? Ellie's tattoo. Ellie's got the shirt on, which the lore now says it came from Bill or Bill's mom or Bill's daughter. I don't know exactly whose shirt this was, but it was a woman's, it was in a box that say women's clothing. The maroon shirt with the sunset on it. Just like in the game, baby. How many gallons of tears did you cry? However many, 64 ounces. I'm refilling right now. Okay, that's all the image, the imagery and the notes I have for this episode. I think I went over everything. And then looking forward to next week. Little something. Found a little something. Next week on The Last of Us. Where have I seen that before? This bridge. A vlog? Like 6 years ago? In Lethbridge, Canada? I was there first? This is it. This is 100% the bridge in Lethbridge. Look at the fixtures. It's exactly the same. And this is CG. There's no way it collapsed and shit. But this is like Lethbridge's monument. They filmed this whole thing in Canada. They filmed like all of it in Canada. That's pretty cool. Because actually this was like one of my favorite drone shots I had ever taken in my life. And then here it is on The Last of Us. And one of the best television episodes I will ever watch in my lifetime. Guaranteed. I'm a location scout. Yeah, chat, I've been, listen, ever since 6 years ago when I went to Canada, I said it was for a Jenna college visit, but I was really there scouting for HBO's upcoming show, The Last of Us. I just couldn't talk about it. I was under NDA, and they forgot to put my credit in the credits, but that's okay. They sent me a jacket, so we're squared away. So actually, I'm proud of not really letting it go and crying too much talking about this. Thank you, Mitty, for that awesome little tidbit. Maybe the one good thing that came out of Twitter. Wow, that was a really spectacular episode of television. I think that in conclusion, I feel, and I'm gonna be really honest here, I'm such a fan of this universe, this game, and now this show, that like, and this is kind of how I am, I'm primed to be happy with what they come out with. Like, I'm not taking away what they've done so far. I think they've done a good job objectively, but I'm priming myself to enjoy it. Like, it's gonna be good to me in one way or another, because I'm gonna be able to like draw comparisons, feel nostalgic, feel special because I've played the game like so many people. And so when it comes to life, there's always going to be a level of me feeling like they did a good job. But this episode was not that at all. Like, I went to sleep crying, I woke up crying, I spent my walk with the greyhounds crying. I've just been feeling so many emotions from this episode of television that has nothing to do with my bias towards this show. You know what I mean? So I think that for everyone who watched this show and felt all those emotions and were able to kind of be touched by this beautiful story, like, just hold on to that, you know? That's like that's a powerful thing. And I feel grateful to have had this story told to me. So yeah, big shouts out to everyone who worked on this. This was so cool. So cool. And I'm excited to do this again next week and next week and next week and next week. And then for a season 2, because they got renewed. So let's go, baby.